Does being a U.S. citizen guarantee your protection? Your citizenship is one of your top D.C. daily headlines for April 18. President Trump wants to end birthright citizenship, and the Supreme Court has scheduled a special session to hear the case next month. Lower courts have blocked the president's order, ruling that it violates the 14th Amendment. But the case before the justices on May 15 is not expected to focus on birthright citizenship, but on whether judges have the authority to block the president's initiatives like birthright citizenship nationwide. Senate Democrat Chris Van Hollen now has proof of life of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He met with him in El Salvador on Thursday. Garcia, you remember, was deported last month when the Trump administration accused him of being an MS-13 gang member. A federal judge ruled that Garcia should be allowed to return to the United States. The Supreme Court said the United States should facilitate that return. But the Trump administration has resisted the order, saying it does not have the authority to bring him back. A U.S. citizen born in Georgia, detained in Florida for ICE deportation. He was released after 2 days behind bars after his mother brought his birth certificate to a judge to prove his citizenship. But the county judge said despite being a citizen, she could not let him go because the federal government had him on an ICE hold. Immigration officials, though, later lifted that hold, leading to his release. There are so many political headlines. You're probably getting whiplash, right? Let's kind of wrap it up here in just a couple of minutes as we preview Fox News Sunday with its host, Shannon Breen. Good to see you, my friend. All right, so I'm going to spin the wheel and start with birthright citizenship. The president signing an executive order to end it. SCOTUS just saying they'll schedule an emergency hearing to hear this case. But in reading the briefs, tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a lawyer as well, that it looks like this is going to focus not so much on birthright citizenship, but on whether judges can actually file an injunction that would block the president's initiatives nationwide.
Bingo, Lena. Okay, that's exactly what people need to know, is that we may not get to the merits. We probably will not get to the merits of whether birthright citizenship, as we now understand it under the 14th Amendment, can be changed by executive order. It's really about these nationwide injunctions, and there have been many of those for all different topics the president has taken action on in the first, 100 days or so of his administration. So it's really going to be about how much power those district judges, there are hundreds of them, do or don't have to stop any particular policy coming out of the White House.
And also there was something that was a really big headline, was whether or not the president intends to at least take a look at deporting U.S. citizens. Now, one of the things that kind of led to this is the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is not a citizen. But the whole crux of that case, though, is that the president was using the Alien Enemies Act to skip due process. So the due process portion is the part that the judges and people seem to be focused on. And I know that you have Chris Van Hollen on your show as well, who just met with him last night.
We do, and I have so many questions about how that came together, what their conversation was. Did they talk about the allegations that Abrego Garcia is somehow linked to MS-13 and the other allegations against him? There are also moms here in the Maryland area, 2 of them, who lost their daughters in separate cases to somebody who was in this country illegally, and they want to know why that senator had tax money and tax time and his time to go down there and meet with this individual who's not a U.S. citizen and didn't have much to say about the loss of their daughters who were Maryland constituents. So there are all the optics there too. But on the issue of due process, we're getting the sense from the Trump administration, if somehow they are forced and do bring Abrego Garcia back to the U.S., they will immediately keep him in custody, their plan, as we're hearing it, and go ahead with the due process, have those hearings, and maybe end up deporting him to another country anyway.
And that could potentially satisfy both sides, getting due process, but then maybe the deportation. And just to be clear, the Angel families were not linked to Abrego Garcia.
Not connected to him.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Also, want to talk to you about the Fed Chairman, Jay Powell. Now, I refer to the Federal Reserve as everyone in the math club in high school who grew up and then went to the Federal Reserve. So really, they focus on numbers. They don't seem to care who puts the numbers up there. They just crunch the numbers for the health of the U.S. economy. But now the president is saying he wants to pull Powell out of that position. And we should remember that he put him in that position after removing Janet Yellen.
Right. And there's supposed to be a lot of independence for the Fed so they can make decisions. As you said, it's supposed to be on data. It's supposed to be on numbers. Well, President Trump does not like the way things are going, that they haven't adjusted interest rates downward. He's calling him too late Powell. So that is, everybody gets a nickname. And that's the one he's getting as President Trump watches and sees, EU and other places where they are making changes to their rates that are taking them downward. He thinks Powell should be doing the same here in the U.S. Powell is staying independent, and we'll see where that clash goes.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, I wish we had more time, but we do get a full hour with you every Sunday, so looking forward to that. I like the new haircut, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yes, very
and
lovely.
happy Easter to you.
Happy Easter to you too, my dear. And you can spend Easter morning, or you could record it so you can watch it on your time when it's convenient for you. Fox News Sunday, you get a full hour with Shannon Bream taking a look at the top DC headlines that impact you and your life. Guys, back to you.